Hey everybody, and welcome to my condo in Thailand. I moved to Thailand about 10 years ago after having lived in Japan most of my adult life. I've rented, I've owned, I've lived in Bangkok. Now I live here near Jomtien Beach, about 300 meters away from the beach, and I own a condo in this building right here. This is my second condo. I own another one in Bangkok. But today I just want to focus on this one, and I'd like to do three things today. First of all, I'm just going to take you upstairs, I'll show you the condo, show you why I loved it, talk about how much it cost and things like that. Number two, I'll go into why I chose a condo instead of buying a house, which is also something you can do here. And finally, I'll end up with why in both of my condos, both cases, I went for an older condo, in an older unit rather than one of the new high-rise bling ones. I'm not in any way suggesting you should buy a condo. Like, I'm not trying to endorse anything. I'm just saying why ownership made sense for me and why it still makes sense for me now, years after. So let's go have a look at my condo. Okay, time for the quick tour. This is my condo. It's 60 square meters. Quickly, there's the kitchen. When I bought it, it came with everything, including this fridge. And as you can see, it's a corner room, which is something I would always recommend because corner rooms just give you so much more light. Got the bathroom, which has overhead shower, and I'm doing some testing there because I got a funky smell coming out of my drain. That's my favorite piece of art that I bought. The art here, everything, the whatever paintings, all came with the condo. All right. Sorry, I don't have a wide angle lens here, so I'll take it from this direction. So there's the TV nook. Again, that was all here. That's my work nook where I do my coding and stuff. And it's kind of like this natural place where like the desk kind of just fits in there. There's my neighbors. That's the ocean right there. This is my bedroom. I replaced the bed. It's one of the two things I replaced when I moved in. Okay, we can head out the balcony here. All right, so there's Jomtien. You can see Jomtien Tower up there somewhere. This is Rompo Market, which is super convenient because you can get vegetables and fruits and stuff. Again, there's the beach. And we're back in. Okay, so I've shut all the doors to make it a little bit quiet here. For privacy reasons, I'm not going to say where this is exactly, but anyone who lives around Jomtien can probably make an educated guess where this is. The condo itself, as I said, is about 60 square meters. For my American friends, that's about 650 square feet. And that's more than enough room for a guy who just, lives on his own. I don't use the balcony much, but I do appreciate it. It's really nice in the mornings. You go out there with, coffee and a bit of fruit. It's a nice way to start the day, particularly this time of year. It's January now, and the weather, December, January is really the time to be here. It's nice and cool in the mornings. It doesn't get too hot in the day. It's really crowded, lots of tourists, but it's fine, right? It's very different in Jomtien versus Pattaya, which is one reason I chose Jomtien as a location. Pattaya is always kind of heaving, and it really feels just like tourists. Whereas Jomtien is much more residential, which is one reason I chose this area. But I chose an area that's close enough to where everything is so I can walk anywhere I need to. A big part of the appeal for me with this particular room was it's just so bright and nice. And being a corner room, it's got all this light. And I cannot recommend strongly enough. If you're planning to buy a condo in Thailand or anywhere, pay that extra and get a corner room. It makes so much difference. Like my one in Bangkok, which is a nice little condo, it's just one of those long condos with the big window at the end. So it it never really feels bright. And whereas my one that I lived in before up in Kaupratamnak, having a corner unit means tons of light, and a corner unit means you can open both, like you can open a window on this side and a door back there, and it just makes for a really nice breeze all the time. So it is worth it. I don't think I'll ever buy anything again that's not a corner unit. The building itself here doesn't have much in the way of amenities. It's got a really nice pool downstairs. That's the one thing it does have. The developer is this Italian guy, and so you can feel it's got like an Italian aesthetic to it. It's really nice, you know, the pool down there. I don't use it much. I'm not much of a pool guy, but yeah, it is nice to have. The cost when I first asked about this place 2 years ago, December 2023, was 2.8 million baht, which is about, at that time with the exchange rate, was about 80,000 US dollars. When I walked in here and I saw, you know, how bright it was, and I loved it right away. In fact, I saw 3 other units in this place, and I thought any one of them I would have bought, I think. It's just, it was so nice here. And I was with my Canadian buddy Graham, and he's bought and sold properties for years in Thailand, so he knows everything about this stuff. Plus, he's really got a good business mind. And I look at him, and I've got that, and I kind of say to him, I'm going to buy this. This is it. I don't want to lose this. And he gives me the, you know, cool your jets, you know, the universal sign for calm down, like don't show all your cards. And so we got through the showing, and then he kind of took over the agent and did his thing. And he said, listen, you know, it's 2.8 is too much. Let's do 2.6. You know, talk to the developer and ask for 2.6. And the agreement was, yeah, okay, 2.6, but I have to pay all of the transfer fee, which is fine. In the end, it came to, so that was about a $5,000 discount. In the end, the place was just over 2.65 million baht, which is about $76,000. But after we told the guy 2.6 million, Graham and I went for beers over at Rompo. And all night I'm like, if I lose this place, I'll never forgive you. Like, this is a perfect place. I was so worried. And he's like, listen, it doesn't happen like that in real estate. So everything turned out okay. Although I did find out later from the old juristic staff that someone had been in here the 2 days before and they were up in Udon, and they just couldn't get, they just couldn't get some document or something they needed before they wanted to make a final decision and say yes. And I bought it just like literally that same afternoon that I bought it. Apparently they called and said, yeah, we'll take it. And they said, oh, I'm sorry, it's already sold. So yeah, I was very lucky on that one. So it was about $76,000. Okay, now you've seen the condo, and we've talked about the pricing and, you know, what I paid for it. The next point is condos versus home, and why I chose to buy a condo rather than buying a home. And the main reason is that when you own a condo, you're not actually owning physical land property. You're just owning a unit in a building. When you own land, you're not allowed to, as a foreigner, to own actual land in Thailand. So there's a trick that people use, which is to set up basically a shell company, and they're allowed to, you know, own that property outright. It is legal. It's not illegal, but it's not using the law in the spirit of the law, and that worries me, because as much as I love Thailand, you know, it has a reputation for a little bit of political instability, and that means that I don't know if and when someone will say, yeah, you can't do that anymore. But with a condo, the rules are super clear. You buy a condo under what's called a foreign quota. All condos, like in this building, they take the total number of square meters, square footage, and they say 51% of this must be owned by Thai citizens, and the other 49% can be owned legally and outright by foreigners. You have to pay tax, property tax and things every year, I think in January. But you can own it without any hassles at all. And I don't see that ever changing. So that's my main reason. I would say the other reason is just that I travel. I travel a lot. And sometimes I go away for 2 or 3 months at a time. And I really like it that I can just lock my door turn off my water main's just outside, and I go to the airport. And when I come back 3 months later, everything's exactly the same. I don't have to worry about cutting the grass or anything like that because all these condos have maintenance crews that deal with everything outside of your door. That's why you pay common fees. Oh, by the way, in this condo, the common fee, the fee I pay every year, it's about 50 baht per square meter, which is a bit higher than what I pay, a lot higher actually. My one in Bangkok is 35 baht per square meter. So I pay something like, I don't know, whatever that is, the math on that, say, I don't know, 35,000, like about $1,100 a year or something. That's my strata fee, my jurisdiction or my common fee for this. And they look after everything. So that's another big reason why condos work very well for me. And also they just feel more secure. Certainly if I was a single woman living in this country, I would choose a condo rather than a house. You're just safer. You're basically forced to be in a community where, all your doors are kind of joined. So, there's cameras everywhere. People see you coming and going. It's good for that. And you're way less likely to have a break-in. If you live in a muban, like a housing community, those places, they get broken into, obviously, right? If you go away for a few months, there's always people watching. So one of my reasons for buying a condo versus a house. So given that I'm only looking at condos, the next question is, why did I choose older places for both this condo and my one in Bangkok, and not one of the nice, newer, shinier, blingy, high-rise ones that are going up everywhere? They all have great pools, usually really decent gyms, things like that. The main reason was what you get for your money. When you look at the listings, if you look at an older condo, you're going to see a lot of photos of the rooms and not much about the amenities because they're usually not going to be so well maintained or so nice. With a new condo, all the listings are of the amenities. And then there might be one or two of this 23 square meter, 250 square foot little rabbit hutch of a room that you get for your money. They shoot it with a wide angle lens to make it look bigger than it is, but they're claustrophobic. To be fair though, I rented one that was so cheap during the end of COVID. I just wanted to be by the beach and get out of Bangkok for a while. And I was just in one of the developments up the road here. And it was one of those really, really tiny 23 square meters, well, maybe 25. It had a separate bedroom. And it was really nice. I mean, things tend to fall apart. You can see that the workmanship is not super great in some of these things. But it was nice. It just got really claustrophobic. And they all tend to build so that your windows are looking like immediately at someone else's. I have that a little bit here too, but I chose this because the front area is all open. Yeah, with the older buildings, you kind of get more bang for your buck, I want to say. You do also have an advantage with older buildings of being able to look and see after, say, 10 years, how well are they being maintained? How well is the management company doing? My condo in Bangkok, which is up on Soi 101/1, up on Udom Suk area, they just painted that last year and it looks fantastic. It's very well maintained. It's old. The elevators are slow, and the common area of the buildings, it shows its wear and tear. But the pool is fantastic still. The grounds are super well maintained. It's all green. There's trees everywhere. Everything's well kept. That's after, I think it's a 15-year-old building, right? So that's one advantage. You have no guarantee of that with a newer building. You don't know how they're going to maintain their facilities. And often, particularly with things like gyms, they don't typically maintain them well. To be fair, though, compared to, say, the Philippines, the Philippines condos are built for nothing. They start degrading the year after they're built, like really badly. So you don't have quite that problem. The condos are just better quality in general in Thailand. The good ones in the Philippines, like the Gramercy, where I used to live, that's still fantastic. But most of them fall apart pretty fast. I think the newer ones here, you would have to do a lot of fixes in the rooms. I looked at a couple of those when I was shopping around for this one. And Graham and I went, my buddy and I went, and there were just tons of tells where, not just the finishing, but even more macro stuff where shells were already coming off and settling cracks, on main concrete pillars and stuff like that. So yeah, old places, yeah, they scrub up well. And note that even if you do get an older place, you can still get a good return on investment. My one in Bangkok, I charged the couple that rents the place 9,000 baht a month, which is about 15% less than the kind of going rate in the area. I gave them a deal just because I wanted to keep them in there. They're good tenants. They signed a 2-year contract. That for me, given what I paid for it during COVID, which was 1.5 million baht, that's about 35 square meters in Bangkok, 1.5 million baht. So I'm making like about a 6% return on investment for that condo. And that's old. I would do probably better on this one because it's by the beach, it's big, right? So even though the newer places say, oh, you get 8% return or 9% return, you might, but also you're going to be paying way over. For a room this size in one of those new ones, you're probably looking at 6 to 8, maybe 8 million baht, which is a ton of money. That's like, I don't know, more than $200,000 for that. And rent being relatively low, unless you've got prime beachfront, you're always going to be fighting to keep your rental rates up. So I don't think your return on investment would be super great on a new place, not to mention the fact that the market is just flooded with new places. Like they just keep building. So occupancy right now, and particularly in Bangkok, is really low. So the older places tend to have higher occupancy just because, you know, they're just cheaper. They've mostly depreciated already. So you're not really going to lose on buying an older place. Particularly, like I really pay attention to location. Like I want to be in the front of the wave of development. So I don't buy in a place that's already super developed. I think, okay, where's the city going? What's the only direction it can go? And I plant in there somewhere. So I get that sweet spot where it's already good to live and developed, but the land prices are only going to go up. That's kind of my thinking for that. Okay, so that's why I choose older places. Okay, and that's about it. I'm here, I got my Japanese green tea, we got a sunset starting to brew. It's one of the nice things about living near any beach, but particularly a beach like Jomtien, which is facing west. You get to see the sunsets. I'm actually from Vancouver Island in Canada, which is on the west coast. I mean, I haven't lived there since I moved to Asia when I was 22 or something. But yeah, sunsets are important to me. I love it. I was there last night just sitting on the beach reading a book. Got the whole sunset going down. I never get tired of this stuff. It's kind of important too because people ask me why do you live in Pattaya? I know why you live in Pattaya. No, you don't. No, you don't. I lived in Bangkok for my first few years, and after I finished my other job at the bank, that's why I was living up in Bangkok for a few years. I was doing software development with a bank there. I'm like, yeah, I didn't move from Tokyo to Bangkok just to live in another concrete jungle. So I first experimented by moving down to the beach and just renting a place, which you can see the Jomtien, the tower over there. Where is it? I guess over there. Just on the other side of that is Khao Pratamnak, which is like the Buddha Hill and the area down, which back in 2017-18 was much quieter than it is now. And I had a room there, and I thought, yeah, this is kind of where I was meant to be. But I didn't make the decision to buy until 2 years ago. Anyway, what I didn't talk about in this video was more the details, like the nitty-gritty of where you might look to buy a condo, and in particular, things that I wish I'd asked about before I bought here. I'm not saying I wouldn't have bought here, but I found some stuff out that is problematic about this place, and I just didn't really ask the right questions, probably, when I bought. So I'll get into that, some of those details eventually. I'm not really sure when. I'll try and get a video out, within the month. In the meantime, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Or, there's so many people, I'm sure, who will be watching this who have way more experience buying and selling in general and in Thailand. I've only, literally, my first condo in Bangkok is the first thing I've ever bought. That was in 2020, I want to say 21. And then I got this one in 23. And I'm planning to buy a small one in Japan, just on the other side of Tokyo Disneyland, later this year, right? So trying to get a small just to make sure I've got a place to hang my hat, you know. So when I get really old, you know, I don't have to, you know, be eating dog food for the rest of my life. I'll have a place to stay and be able to manage my expenses. So if you've done this before and you've got anything to add, please do so in the comments and we can get into it, because I'm always willing to learn more about this kind of stuff. Anyway, if for more like old guy wisdom nuggets and whatever, be sure to like and subscribe, please. Even hit the little notification bell, and I'll try and keep up with content about what it's like to live and work in Asia. I've been doing this since I was 22, right? I had multiple jobs. I've moved multiple countries. I never get tired of it. Always learning, always meeting cool people, always trying the new food. So I'll try and share that as much as I can in 2026, right? The new year. This is my first video of the new year. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you're doing great and have a nice day wherever you are. This is Mike, Coding Travel Bug. See you later. And there you go. Some nice sunset colors. And Rompo is just starting to open up. Bars in Rompo means it's going to be noisy.